Yellowstone Supervolcano Eruptions. Pyroclastic flows at the caldera created mountains of tuffs. This is what they look like. And if we see things like this in other areas, we'll know that these mountains were made from volcanic eruptions that erupted tuffs, ash. This is from Yellowstone USGS Volcano Observatory. Pyroclastic flows at Yellowstone. We had lava flows, hydrothermal explosions, ash tephra falls, pyroclastic flows. Although very unlikely to occur, a caldera forming eruption would produce massive pyroclastic flows. A hot, typically 800 plus Celsius degrees, chaotic mixture of rock fragments, gas and ash that travels rapidly tens of meters per second away from a volcano vent or collapsing flow front. That is a pyroclastic flow. The Yellowstone region has produced 3 exceedingly large eruptions, volcanic eruptions that passed 2.1 million years. The pyroclastic flows from these eruptions resulted in rock formations called tuffs, Tuffs. The Huckleberry Ridge tuff was produced during a caldera-forming eruption, thought to be one of the 5 largest individual volcanic eruptions known anywhere on Earth. The Huckleberry Ridge tuff. The tuff is a general term for all consolidated, hardened or compacted pyroclastic, explosive volcanic origination rocks, synonymous with tuffaceous. Now, so Huckleberry Ridge was one of the 5 largest volcanic eruptions on Earth. A similar, smaller but still huge eruption occurred 1.3 million years ago at Yellowstone. This eruption formed the Henry's Fork caldera, located in the area of the Island Park west of Yellowstone National Park, and produced another widespread volcanic deposit called the Mesa Falls Tuff. The region's most recent caldera-forming eruption, 640,000 years ago, created the 35-mile wide, 50-mile long, that's 55 by 80 kilometers, the Yellowstone caldera that we see today. Pyroclastic flows from this eruption left thick volcanic deposits known as the Lava Creek Tuff, which can be seen in the south-facing cliffs east of Madison, where they form the north wall of the caldera. Now, the lava, we know, is the general term for magma or molten rock that has been erupted onto the surface of the earth and maintains its integrity as a fluid or viscous mass rather than exploding into fragments. That was the Lava Creek Tuff, 640,000 years ago. Contrary to what the media portrays, Yellowstone is not overdue for a caldera-forming eruption. There is no requirement that Yellowstone will have a 4th caldera-forming eruption. If it does, it will not necessarily follow any particular schedule. The actual average of the 2 intervals between the 3 eruptions, about 730,000 years, significantly greater than the time elapsed since the last supereruption. Nevertheless, we cannot discount the possibility of another such eruption occurring sometime in the future, given Yellowstone's volcanic history and the continued presence of magma beneath the Yellowstone caldera. We have the magma, the molten rock, beneath the surface of the earth. Now, the ash and tephra fall, the most likely type of volcanic eruption at Yellowstone would produce lava flows of either rhyolite or basalt. Rhyolitic lava eruptions could also include explosive phases that might produce significant volumes of volcanic ash and pumice. Such eruptions could range in size from smaller than the 1980 eruptions at Mount St. Helens through much larger than the 1991 Mount Pinatubo eruption. The least likely but worst-case volcanic eruption at Yellowstone would be another explosive caldera-forming eruption, such as those that occurred 2.1 million, 1.3 million, and 640,000 years ago. Such an eruption would produce ash columns that exceed 6 miles and cover much of the United States with some ash. Once entering the stratosphere higher than about 6 miles up, the ash particles could circle the whole Earth, and in combination with the sulfur dioxide emitted during this eruption, could cause global temperatures to drop. However, the probability of such an eruption in any given century or millennium is exceedingly low, much lower than a hydrothermal explosion or lava flow eruption. As for the hydrothermal explosions, Yellowstone's volcanic and hydrothermal history suggests the potential for various kinds of eruptions in the future. The likelihood of a certain type of eruption occurring in the future can be judged by how often eruptions have occurred in the past. The most likely type of eruption would not be volcanic, but it would rather be hydrothermal. This type of small but still explosive eruption can occur from shallow reservoirs of steam or hot water rather than molten rock. This is the hydrothermal type of eruption that we recently saw at the White Island volcano in the North Island of New Zealand. The water entered the caldera, the crater, and it got superheated to the point where it had to escape, and that's what caused the explosive eruption. So this could be the most likely type of eruption would be a hydrothermal, but still explosive. Can occur from shallow reservoirs of steam or hot water rather than the molten rock. These reservoirs are the sources of Yellowstone's geysers and hot springs and fumaroles. Such explosions could blast out shallow craters more than a kilometer wide, as has occurred in the northern Yellowstone Lake Basin, including Mary Bay, and that's Mary Lake, nearby Turbid Lake and Indian Pond, and in western Yellowstone National Park, north of Old Faithful. A recent and notable hydrothermal explosion occurred in 1989 at Pork Chop Geyser in North Geyser Basin. The remains of this explosion are still clearly visible today, as an apron of rock debris 15 feet across surrounding Pork Chop's central spring. In the 1880s and early 1890s, a series of powerful hydrothermal explosions and geyser eruptions occurred at Excelsior Geyser in the Midway Geyser Basin. Some of the explosions hurled large rocks as far as 50 feet away. The largest hydrothermal explosion crater documented in the world is along the north edge of Yellowstone Lake in an embayment known as Mary Bay. This 1.5 mile diameter crater formed about 13,800 years ago and may have had several separate explosions in a short time interval. What specifically triggered these very large events is not firmly established, but earthquakes or a pressure release caused by melting glaciers or rapid changes in lake level may have been a significant factor. These very large and violent hydrothermal explosions are dependent of associated volcanism. None of the large hydrothermal events of the past 16,000 years has been followed by an eruption of magma. The deeper magma system appears to be unaffected, even by spectacular steam explosions and crater excavations within the overlying hydrothermal systems. So the hydrothermal explosions have nothing to do, and they don't trigger the lava and magma eruptions. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. and we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.